Hello everyone and welcome to week 1 of English 121. This week you're going to watch the first lecture, which is going to be what I'm doing right now, which will be an introduction to our class. You're going to make sure that you read and understand our class syllabus and the discussion rubric. I also ask that you read and understand our class schedule because it'll tell you what assignments we'll be doing when. I'd like you to participate in our first conversation, which will be an introduction conversation. Watch video Dana Joya on reading a story. Now this is part of the interactive text, and I'll speak to that in just a second. I know some of you have had some trouble obtaining that at the bookstore, and don't worry, that the problem has been solved, and I will talk to you about it in just one second. I want you to read and understand the active reading checklist. Also read Literature Chapter 1, which is all about reading a story. This is just pages 5 through 13. And if you'd like, please read Literature Chapter 46, which is all about writing as discovery, and it talks about keeping a journal. And then after that, you will be writing your first journal entry, your reflection journal, on fables. Welcome to English 121. I'm so excited that you're here. We'll be studying fiction, poetry, and drama over the next 18 weeks. I have pictured here 3 of some of my favorite artists of these crafts. If you'd like extra credit, identify all 3 of these literary icons and send me an email at idunkel@napavalley.edu with all 3 correct names, and you will receive 10 points extra credit. So way to start off the year with a positive. So before you begin, I just want to make sure you review our course syllabus and our course schedule. You can find both these items if you are in our Blackboard site and you click on the left-hand side, there's a link to English 121 Course Basics. This will take you to the page you see here, which has the course syllabus, the course schedule. It also has our conversation rubric, which we're going to be talking about a little bit in just a second, but it's how you'll be graded in your discussion forums, and a link to information about the text we're going to be using called literature. So once you take a second to download the class syllabus, and please really read it. It's a guide to how to do well in this class, but I'm going to give you some of the highlights. Please make sure you review our class syllabus, which I said is found under Course Basics. New content will be posted on Tuesday morning. It'll actually be posted by Monday evening, and it'll be due by the following Monday at 11:59 p.m. You are encouraged to log in at least 3 times a week in order to do well in this course. Each week, you'll be reading selections from our textbook, Literature, An Introduction to Fiction, Poetry, Drama, and Writing. Please make sure you have the interactive edition. Now, I know that some of you who were so good and went to the bookstore before the beginning of the semester, which I'm so excited about that you guys did that, unfortunately, the wrong version of our textbook was ordered. So if you do have the current, the textbook that was ordered by the bookstore is the correct textbook, it's just not the interactive version. So what the bookstore has agreed is if you've already purchased that text, that's fine. You can use it this week to do the work, and you can return it, exchange it for the actual text we're going to be using, which will include the interactive portion, but it is the same exact textbook. So feel free to pick up the book at the bookstore. It should be in early this week. I will also have a version of the text available at the library for you to photocopy in case it isn't in on time, and that will always be there in case you need to use it, but you will need to buy a textbook. Make sure you know how to log into, then once you get the correct version, you want to make sure you know how to log into My Literature Lab, and you can locate the e-text. This is where the videos and other interactive content can be found, and I have posted directions on how to do this under this week's content. Also, if you have questions, email me or stop by my office hours. Those will be listed under instructor details. I love to talk about literature. It's my favorite thing in the world to talk about, actually. So anytime you have questions about the text, don't hesitate to reach out to me. You're going to be graded in this course based on your participation. That's 40% of your grade. That's your reflection journal. That's your discussion posts, our conversations, um, and your formal assignments, your essays, your midterm, and your final, and any projects we do, which will be worth 60% of your grade. How this class works is each week I'm going to post an announcement which will automatically email out to you on Monday at 11:59 p.m. This will email out to whatever email address you have posted in Blackboard. So you might want to check out and see what email you have there, because that's the one you want to check all the time. And you can change that in Blackboard. If you have questions about that, just let me know. This announcement will contain all the work you will be expected to complete by the end of the week. A typical week will include the following: a lecture. You want to watch this first. That's what you're doing right now, hopefully, as it will give you guidance on what we are reading and the assignments you'll be completing based on the reading. A reading assignment. You want to complete this before you participate in discussions or complete assignments. A conversation or discussion prompt. This is the virtual classroom discussion where we're going to talk about the text that we've read. You will be asked to post an initial post where you answer all of the questions provided, and you respond to at least 3 of your peers' posts where you add substantially to what they've posted in order to enhance our discussion. The idea is to not just say, "Good post, I like this." You want to respond to it. That opens up the conversation, makes it bigger, so we can continue to understand the literature we're reading. You're also going to write a reflection journal prompt where you're going to be asked to critically think about the text that we've read for the week. And that is a text, the reflection journal is just for yourself and for me, but you are expected to check your grammar before you post it and your spelling. Also, any information about any upcoming assignments, such as papers or tests. So to begin, you want to click on the link to on the left-hand side that says Lessons. Under this, you'll find a list of the lessons as they become available. This week, there will only be one available except for Getting Started. You want to click on Week 1, August 18th. Once you click on that, you'll be able to begin working on the content for the week. This is what it looks like when you click on it. And you'll see under Table of Contents, there's a list of items that you're expected to complete. Please complete these in order. As you can see, the first thing that's listed is the lecture. Second is a discussion forum. Third is a reflection journal. All right, so speaking of the discussion, let's start off by having a conversation. This week, we'll begin our discussion forums with an introduction. Our discussion forum is where a lot of the magic of our course will happen. This is where we'll hold discussions about the texts we're reading and the assignments we're working on. If you want to do well in this class, you're going to have to participate in class discussions. Don't forget to review the rubric I posted under Getting Started. This document will provide you with details on how you will be graded in discussion forums. This discussion is worth 10 points, as will every other discussion in this class will be worth 10 points as well. You need to post your initial post by this Saturday at 11:59 p.m. and then you need to respond to by this Friday at 11:59 p.m. and then you need to respond to at least 3 of your peers' posts by next Monday at 11:59 p.m. I apologize, these weren't edited before. When you begin a post, you want to start with an address, such as Dear Class, and end your post by signing your name, such as Thanks, Dr. Dunkel. You want to title your post with your name, such as Dunkel, and the title of the post, such as Introduction. Our first discussion forum is where we'll get to know one another. One of the most important parts of being successful online is to get to know the community that you will be learning with. So this week, your first task is to post an introduction. Please post the following information: your full name, and if appropriate, your nickname or the name you'd like us to address you by in this class, where you're from, and any details you'd like to share about your family, when you felt like an insider as a reader, and when you felt like an outsider as a reader. A photograph of you, and please, if you feel comfortable, please do post a photograph because it really helps us feel connected to you. But if you don't feel comfortable with that, then you can post a photo of something you love. I'll begin by posting an example post under the introductions conversation so you'll know what I'm looking for. I look forward to learning more about you. So, the first video you're going to watch after you do your discussion forum is a video that can be found in our e-text, and it's Dana Joya talking about reading a story. How reading a story is like having a conversation with the author. I really like this model as a way to engage with the text we're going to be reading. So to get to this video, you want to log into My Literature Lab, click on e-text, and then under content, table of contents, click on Watch the Video. Then you want to click on Watch Dana Joya as he discusses reading a story. Then the video should just load. You have a number of texts assigned in this class, as you've probably already expected. As you read, I expect you to read actively. That means I don't want you to just read it and get through it and not pay attention. To do well in this class, you really need to critically engage with the text that you're reading. So before you read, you really want to think about who the author is. Do you know anything about who this author is? Then I want you to think about what genre is the text. So what type of literature is it? Is it fiction? Is it poetry? Is it drama? Think about when it was written. Look up when it was published. This will help you think about contextualizing the text. Think about where it was published. Think about what the title is of the text. What does that mean? What do you predict will happen in the text? Use this information before you even begin reading. Also, you'll notice with each of the texts that we read for this class, there is a bio about the author that I expect you to read before you read the text. It's really important to know about the author you're going to be reading. Then during and after, so while you're reading, I want you to have a pen or a pencil in your hand. If you don't feel comfortable writing in the book, I want you to have some sticky notes and write on those or on a piece of paper next to the text. I want you to circle words that you aren't familiar with and look them up. I want you to mark words or passages that make you think about things you've already read or your own personal experiences. I want you to mark passages that you agree with or you disagree with and tell us why you agree or disagree with that passage. If something's really difficult, mark it so you can come back to it later. If you really like a passage, underline it or put a star next to it so you can remember passages you really like when you come back to think about it. Mark parts of the text that highlight the main theme of the text and by the end, try to summarize what's being said in this text. As you go, ask questions. Ask the author questions. Ask yourself questions. Ask the characters in the text questions, or write little questions to ask me later. And if you see any, as we learn about them, identify literary elements. Don't worry, we're going to be coming back to that again and again. So you'll notice the first chapter that we read is the section on reading a story. It's found on pages 5 through 13 in your text. And it talks about the art of fiction. We're going to be starting the semester with fiction. Fiction is not factual, it's imagined. So what that means is it's a bunch of stories. It's the best story that the author could tell. It's how people act. The best stories are not just telling you this happened, then this happened, then this happened. They tell about the people and how they respond to how things happen. Humans, all of us, love stories. We love to be told stories. We love to tell stories. Stories are how we communicate with one another about some of the most important things in our lives. Think about it. Think about how stories have been used in your life. Forms of fiction that we're going to be thinking about include the short story and the novel. We're only going to be reading short stories in this text, but many of the things we're learning about in regards to fiction can also be thought about in regards to the novel. There are three ancient forms of fiction that you're going to be reading this week and thinking about. There's the fable, and this is a brief, humorous narrative that often has animals in it, and they use those animals to tell a story. Some of the most famous ones are Aesop's fables, which you'll be reading one of this week. There's the parable. This is a realistic narrative that has human characters instead of animal characters, and it's also used to illustrate a moral. And then there's the tale. This is a story with strange and wonderful events. The most common ones that you've probably heard about are fairy tales. Pretty much all of us have been exposed to fairy tales. So what you're going to be reading this week is The Appointment in Samara. And this is by W. Somerset Maugham. It was written in 1933. Remember, it's important that you think about that before you even begin reading. And this is a fable. You'll also be reading The Fox and the Grapes. This is written by Aesop, and this is from the 6th century BC, so a really long time ago. This is also a fable, and I want you to think about the differences between these two types of fables. One was written very, very long ago, and one was written within the last century. You're also going to be reading The Camel and His Friends. This is Bidpai, and it was written in the 4th century BC. It's also a fable. So it's a great idea to look at these 3 different fables and compare them. This week, you'll also be reading something called Independence by Chuang Tzu. This is from the Zhou dynasty. It's a 4th century from the 4th century BC, and this is an example of a parable. You'll also be reading Godfather Death, and this is by Jacob and Wilhelm Grimm, also known as the Brothers Grimm. It was published in 1812, and it is a tale or a fairy tale. So after reading these texts and thinking about them, and when I say reading them, I mean actively reading them, I want you to take out, open up your journal, your reflection journal, and type up a response to the questions that I'm going to be providing for you. Before you do, though, I want you to think about how to engage in a reflection journal. Please make sure you read the assigned readings before you write your journal entry. It's very important. And your journal entry should always be at least 250 words. You can always go over 250 words. You need to answer all the questions that are asked in the prompt, and you must turn them in by Monday at 11:59 p.m. each week in order to receive credit. Your journal is totally private. Only you and I will see your entries, so don't be afraid to use your journal post as a means to think through the text that we're reading. For more information on how to post a journal entry in an online environment, there's a link here for information on it. Please note, even though you're thinking through the literature, you are required to check your spelling and your grammar. For more information on how to write a successful journal entry, read Literature Chapter 46. Just so that you remember, each journal entry is worth 10 points. There's a total of 17 journal entries you'll be doing this over the course of the semester, worth a total of 170 points. You must turn your journal entries in on time to receive full credit. So, after you actively read the text, please answer the following questions in a reflective journal entry. For ideas on how to write in a journal, I've already told you about this, but I'll tell you again, read Writing as Discovery, Keeping a Journal. So here's the questions. What fables have you heard of before reading the selections in our text? How is an appointment in Samara different from Aesop's The Fox and the Grapes? The original Greek word for the fox's description of the grapes is omphakes, which more precisely means unripe. Does the translator's use of the word sour add any further level of meaning to the fable? How is a parable different from a fable? Why does the protagonist in Independence change the subject and mention the sacred tortoise? Why doesn't he answer the request directly and immediately? Does it serve any purpose that Chang Sao makes the officials answer a question to which he knows the answer? What does this story tell us about the protagonist Chang Su's personality? How is a tale different from a parable or a fable? Which of these stories are your favorite and why? All right, guys, that's it for this week. For next week, we're going to start thinking about plot in short fiction. Next week, you're going to watch the lecture just like you did this week. Then you're going to read selections from chapter 1. and listen to or read the short story The Lottery by Shirley Jackson, one of my favorites. You're going to read a little bit that Shirley Jackson writes on writing in our textbook. You're going to participate in a conversation on close reading for plot, and then you're going to write your reflection journal based on the provided prompt. It's a pleasure to meet all of you virtually. I really look forward to working with you in this class. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask.